Why, hello friends, it's Andrew from IDB here. One of the most important things in your home is your Wi-Fi network, and there are a lot of options out there. A single router, a mesh router, a bunch of range extenders. There's many options. Unfortunately, not a lot of them are great. It often requires a lot of maintenance and thinking and planning and placing in certain spots. Well, the Velop mesh network from Linksys is one of the best, if not the best, mesh network router out there on the market right now. So we get to go hands-on, try it out, and see what you think, and compare it to other popular systems like the Eero, which we reviewed not that long ago. So the idea here is if you have one router and you place it central in your home, you're only going to have signal to a certain range. And then outside of that, if you have to add extenders, they could mean multiple network names, and you'll still have degradation as you go between routers. A mesh network system is supposed to offer pretty much seamless transition between the different routers and offer 100% performance, no degradation, as you jump between routers completely seamlessly and unbeknownst to you as you're actually using it. It works perfectly for pretty much any type of home that you may have, whether it's multi-story, ranch style, modern, brownstone, apartment. It'll work with all of them, and how many you need will just determine how big your home is. You may only need one and not a whole 3 set like we have here, or maybe 2 if you have something smaller like a 2-story apartment. They all come with their own little power adapters, which are really nicely, they're custom designed, they're not some out-of-the-box solution, and they're pretty nice, but I feel like the little blocks are a little bit on the larger side. Of course, what normally happens here is they move some of the electronics from inside of the router into these little bricks here. They're not too bent, and luckily they're super thin on the top, and you're pretty much able to plug 2 things into your outlets without pretty much any issue. The cord, nice, white, flexible, and the ends are a little bit angled here so you can easily plug them into the bottom of the router and through the little channel port. The routers themselves are fairly unassuming, looking pretty standard and modern in style, similar to maybe the Apple airport routers, but with a little bit more of a modern flair. On the bottom is where all the other kind of ports and the ugly things may need to be, like the actual reset button, the 12-volt DC power, the on and off switch, as well as 2 Ethernet ports, one for in and one for out, if you happen to need the out port. I would definitely put that on the list of downsides, as there's only a limited output from these as far as hard wiring, but it's not that hard or that expensive just to pick up a network switch. So that's what I did. I put one network switch here onto the main router, and the rest of them were completely wireless. While the front of the routers are nice and seamless, the back has a bunch of perforations to allow some kind of heat transfer to go through, as well as to improve signal strength. Especially like these routers, it needs to be out in the open, and since you're going to have many of them possibly throughout your home, it's always best to have them designed well, and I think they did a great job. I definitely don't mind having these sitting on a table here and there, especially with the performance that I've been getting through these guys. So let's go ahead and set one up. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in, pretty much standard first step. Then it's just going to depend on whether you got the first one or a second one or third one in your system. It's also really nice because they ask you what kind of network you have now. Do you have a modem and a router, or just a modem? So it makes it really easy to kind of plan out, and they'll automatically make a lot of those settings for you. So once you have it plugged in and you answer a few different questions, it's going to just tell you to wait for that light to change to a solid purple, and then it'll look for your node. It's kind of cool because it'll automatically place it and do all these other fancy things for you. So it'll tell you, it'll do this check location thing and check your speed. Actually, you know what? That doesn't seem to be the best place to try to put your router. It could do more better in an open position or closer to another router in your network. But when you nail it the first time, it lets you know just right. You move on to actually go ahead and answering some more questions. Like, where is this node located? It doesn't really do anything, but it helps for your sake, because you can see in there where each device is connected to if you really want to get granular and see what's going on with your network. Of course, just like every child who plugged in a PS3 or Xbox when they first got it, you're going to need a firmware update to update these to the latest software, which luckily oftentimes brings new features. So not a lot to see on the routers themselves. Let's just jump into the app, which is really where all the cool stuff's going to be and all the granular stuff that you can do. First things first, you can view your network information, your network name, the password, and a variety of different ways to share that information with guests in your home, whether it's through a text, through just copy and pasting, or through a message. Also on your dashboard is a bunch of other information like how many devices are currently connected and shortcuts to many different parts of the application, like parental controls. I can choose a device, maybe it's my iPhone here. I can actually set a schedule so I can determine when it's allowed on and off the network. I can choose the day of the week and what times during those days. I could also block specific sites. So maybe your children aren't allowed on Facebook. Really easy to go ahead and turn off Facebook for that specific device. The app can be a little bit confusing because you can get to many things right here from the home screen, or if you open it up from the left-hand side, you have a menu as well with many of the same options. Like devices is our second one down the list. It allows you to show all the devices connected to your network and gives you more information, like the actual network they're connected to, which node they're connected to, IP information, all of that info. You can even choose little custom icons and names for each of those devices to make it easier to see what's going on. Then we have Wi-Fi settings, pretty standard stuff, what kind of security you're using, what are your passwords or your network names, all of that. They can also automatically do things to make your network better, like the automatic scanner channel finder. It'll scan your area, looking for kind of open spots where it could do better by changing the channel of your wireless network. Another handy option is the speed test. It allows you to run a speed test right from within the application and not have to rely on third-party website or application to do the same thing. Really easy to see that, and of course you can even run it remotely. So if I'm not at home, I can still connect and view all this information and run a speed test even when I'm not there. We can also prioritize 3 different devices, up to 3. You don't have to do 3, but I absolutely love this, and you can basically give any of those important ones kind of a straight shot through. So like my phone, my gaming console, and my Apple TV are all basically my priorities. You can also get notifications if your network ever goes offline. So I want to know if my Wi-Fi goes out or something else is going on. I can easily be notified of that whether or not I'm at home. Now we're getting into a little bit of the boring stuff, which is the network administration, the Velop administration kind of stuff. More really granular advanced settings. Literally one's called advanced settings, where you can do internet settings, port settings like port forwarding and all of those single port forwarding options. And then you can even see the Wi-Fi and MAC filters, which you can turn on and optimize there. Lastly, my other favorite feature is these are tri-band routers, which means instead of being dual broadband, they actually have 2 5 gigahertz channels. So if I have my gaming system going and streaming games, but my girlfriend is also watching Netflix in the other room, I don't have to worry about them both stealing all the bandwidth. It'll split it out and automatically switch everything up to make sure it's always working great. So far, I've absolutely loved these routers, and they've worked phenomenally over the last generation Eero. Whether or not they work better than the newest Eeros is something we're going to have to check out a little bit later. If you want to pick one up, you can find a link below in the description. Go ahead and subscribe, and until next time, it's Andrew for IDB.